Well, markets have been keeping us on our toes. After a grand September and early October, now there is a bit of a shakeout. How would you read into last week's price action?
As I think I said in the interview last time, while I didn't think that there was a great bear market coming simply because of if you look at 10-year rolling returns and so on, the market is still below the trend line rather than well above the trend line, which is when you expect a big bear market to come. But then, after this kind of run up, you do expect some corrections, which also I had spoken about. And that is what has happened. And it has been very widespread. I was looking at the data, and last week, only 20% of the stocks were in the positive, and less than a third even outperformed the market. So, two-thirds of the stocks were even below the index numbers, the index falls. So that's been quite a widespread carnage, so to speak, and more so, as we know, in the mid cap and small cap rather than in the large caps. So I think this is a moment of reckoning probably for all the people who entered markets for the first time post the COVID lockdown and who have seen only good things up until now.
How real are the cost pressures? Do you think inflation is transitory, which is what all central banks are saying, or we could be staring at now a definite change of stance, change of communication, and change of policy?
I don't think inflation is very transitory. I mean, that I have, even in my earlier interviews, even before the results started coming out and people started talking about it, the cost pressures were very clear. And then on all fronts, I mean, there's been oil, the metals, if you look at agri commodities, which are again inputs for many of the FMCG companies. So pretty much across the board, I had seen this coming that there would be margin pressure. So, I mean, the input suppliers do better and the users don't do as well. And especially since on the demand side, there is still weakness. The customers are without jobs or without a business and still struggling. It is not that easy to pass on the price increases, whether you're talking consumer durables or the staples. So, and overall, I think unless you are the US, which is what we had predicted early in the year, that for the US, it can control inflation to an extent by managing the dollar. If you look at that, is what has happened since then. But overall, I think for the rest of the world, the pressures will be there. And specifically, I mean, since you talked about rates, pretty much a lot of emerging markets have been increasing rates. There have been markets where central banks have raised rates not just once, but 3, 4, 5 times even. And there are like developed markets, there are still the smaller ones, and there have been pockets where there has been either raises or talk of raises, which is like some of the smaller European markets or Australia, New Zealand, etc. It has still not happened. We all look at only America as to whether the US, whether that they have raised rates or not. So for India, since we have not raised rates, and I don't think we will raise rates in a hurry. That is my sort of outlook. In that case, there could be currency pressure, and especially since the rupee has been in a range for a long time, and if you look at the history of the rupee, either it kind of declines slowly every year, or when it is range bound for a long time, the currency moves can be fairly sudden. So that, to my mind, remains a risk area, because now India is lagging its peers in terms of on the rate side, for sure.
Right. So what happens to this adjustment, what we've seen in the market? Because market pricing is a function of future discounting. If rates do start firming up, or if they are likely to move up in next coming months or quarters, do you see a situation where some of these so-called high quality stocks where P multiples are 70, 80, even 100 times, they run the risk of serious price correction?
As I said, in India, I don't see the rate hike risk right away. And if there is a marginal increase, I mean, obviously, I mean, uh, that does have an impact on the PE, but not quite so straightforward. But there's a different case to be made on whether something should be trading that high. And this was, you always have to get that balance right. Like last year, I remember around the same time, FMCGs were just loved so much, and people said that you can buy it at any price and you will make money off it. And that is never the case. That's never the case. In fact, at that time, we had identified IT services as the counter trade, which also has predictable earnings and which has decent margins and returns. I mean, not as high as the FMCGs, but still pretty good. And it was also a dollar hedge, and it could also be, it was also predictable. And yet the PEs were a fraction of the FMCGs. So we thought, there was a relative re-rating right there, and that played out. So, I mean, you have to be super careful when you're buying very high PE stocks in any case, which is why I said that investors who have not seen anything else thought, everything just keeps going up. But unless you have a very specific case for that stock, you have to be careful. And of course, as rates go up, that has a direct impact on the comparison with the earnings yield. But as I said, that I don't see a very big move, at least in India, for some time, given all our growth concerns.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. So, Devina, the question is, what is a right hiding space right now? Because many believe while the central bank may not increase rates in a hurry and will continue to, support growth in that sense as opposed to be an inflation warrior, sooner or later that will have a repercussion or a bearing on equity markets because they are going to price in what the real inflation is on ground and eventually what the central bank is going to do. So at a time like this, do you at all believe that one needs to now reduce the exposure to equities as an asset class or not at all?
I think that could have done a little bit in advance. I mean, actually, I find that very often investors are chasing what has happened rather than what's going to happen. So, for example, I'll give you an example. Of late, people had been asking us, since we have both global and India products, and the India PMS has been doing phenomenally well. I mean, the markets have done well, and our returns and risk-adjusted returns have been just off the charts. And people have been saying that why did I put money in your global product also, and let me just move everything back to India since that's doing so well. And my answer has always been that you have to get that balance right in terms of asset allocation. You can't be chasing yesterday's story. In fact, that is always a problem, that whenever, and this is statistically proven, that when you're chasing the asset class or the sector or the market or whatever has done well off late, you will have subnormal returns. So so now is the time, as I said, for people who entered only recently, or recently as in the last year and a half, that who have seen only good times. And in my last interview, when the market was still going strong, I said, don't confuse a bull market with brains. So the bull market makes you look better than you are. But if you have a carefully chosen, diversified portfolio, I mean, I don't like to make market predictions. I have never made Nifty predictions or BSE Sensex predictions for ever in my life. So you have to have a well-diversified pool of stocks, which means at least, 25 stocks or so. And then have it diversified, not just in terms of number of stocks, but in terms of sectors, and carefully chosen through some method, some system. And then you can live with it, and also, of course, always account for the fact that you may be wrong, so have stop loss levels and all of that. But don't be very reactive to what has just happened in the market. And as I said, the big thing is that up to, I mean, this is like I was looking at the Sensex data for 40 years. And from 1980, the Sensex started. So the 1980 to 1990, the first decade, you had a 21% odd compounding. Next decade was 14 and a half, then it was some 17 and odd. And then in the 2010 to 2020 decade, it was only 8.5% or so. So you were far, far below trend. And that is what created room for this run up to happen in the first place, which is why, last time I had said that I don't see a big bear market coming, because that big bull market hasn't taken place. Even after, I was just calculating that after this run up post the COVID lows, for 12 years, we have compounded about 10.5%. So it is not as if that you have been compounding like at even at 17, 18%, let alone 20% plus, that you should have that kind of fear that, all is over for now. So if you have chosen carefully, I mean, this is not necessarily the time to really, really cut down. Then you have to do review your portfolio, see whether you are in the right places. And if so, I mean, if you have to live through a couple of months of not so great market, I mean, that is what being in the markets is all about. I mean, that last 1 year that you saw was not representative. Let's just put it that way.
Right. So what are the right spaces right now, Devina? Considering, there is this big devil of inflation, which is really hurting growth. Firstly, it was in anticipation. Now companies themselves are coming out there and saying that they've not seen these kind of inflation figures and how it's been hurting their margins in almost, decades.
We, as a strategy, we are always diversified. So, I mean, it is not as if any sector ever is going to have 20% weightage in our portfolio. So we are careful to diversify. As of now, I spoke about IT services. That probably still remains our number one sector bet, which still doesn't mean that it is very, very high. Some other segments of technology are there. We continue to like segments in chemicals. We continue to like selectively some pharma and healthcare names. Cement is another area we'll have something, but it is fairly diversified. I don't think other than IT services, we have even double digit in any subsector. So it is fairly, I mean, we think, I always say that people who come to us to manage their money say risk control is number one and returns are number two. So parts of risk control are all these things that it is well diversified, that you don't have too much concentration in each sector. And this is something that the retail investors can also take away. And that is how you have to do things. I mean, also, while this also, I think I said, I don't know whether on your channel or elsewhere, that even when you are bullish on small caps, it is always cautiously bullish. So part of the risk control is also to have only limited exposure to small caps or anywhere where liquidity can go away quickly. So that also all through we've had that the small cap exposure is limited. So all those risk control parameters are also equally important when you talk of portfolio management, whether it is your, as a professional fund manager or you're managing your own portfolio.
Absolutely. Let's forget all of that, Devina. Were you at the stadium last night?
No, I am not, unfortunately not a cricketing fan, and definitely I am keeping away from all crowded places still. I think people are lowering their guard too early and too much, and I am being super careful, even though Dubai is largely vaccinated, but still I'm keeping away from crowded places for sure.
Yeah. Would have been even more heartbreaking to be there and see.
So,
I could get the blow by blow account on some of my WhatsApp groups, so, especially the IM one. So,
okay. Yeah, the less said, the better it is about yesterday's match. And Aisha and we were discussing in the morning that just because we've lost a match does not mean that it's the end of India's journey at the World Cup. And just because you've had a bad week of trade does not mean the bull market is actually over. Before we wrap, you mentioned risk management and diversification. But do you think it is important to run such a diversified portfolio? Because now we are not exactly in the early stage of the bull market. Now we are in a stage of the bull market, Devina, where concentration perhaps could help, because not every sector will go up and not every sector will go down.
see, it always has to be carefully chosen stocks, and that is always the case. I mean, I'm not saying that diversification means random diversification, or you have exactly the index weights in each sector. So you are right. The market has narrowed, which is what I spoke about right at the beginning, and so we over time, we've also taken some specific large cap bets to balance that out, but still diversification is key, because not everything works all the time, and of course you have to be alert, which is why we have the hare as our mascot. So that is our aspiration, because the hare has 360-degree vision, looks all around, and so that's what we like to do, and definitely that is our work, to monitor things closely and change the stance and change the portfolio composition as required. That's what this is all about. So you cannot be rigid, you cannot be married to a specific point of view in terms of sectors, that this sector always does well. I mean, nothing does well always. So be flexible. Part of being a good investor is being flexible in terms of strategies, in terms of outlooks, in terms of the sectors you look at or invest in.